Hey everybody, Mr. Eric here, and today we're going to talk about how much money do you need to spend to land yourself in audiophile country. So, I've spent a lot of money on audio equipment over the last few months, and it's been an interesting journey, an enlightening journey. And the last video I released, or a couple of videos ago, I was just kind of talking about where I landed, and that was with some Focal headphones, in particular the Elegia and the Elear. And just to update on that, I have since sold the Elegia. I still have the Elears, but boy, I'm starting to question whether I need them or not, and that's mainly thanks to a couple of devices that I've got that I think are extremely excellent value propositions if you're looking to get into the audiophile world. So first on that list is the Fiio BTR5, which is just this little Bluetooth DAC amp, and I really like this device, and I'll talk about that more here in just a little bit. But that's one of the pieces of gear, and then the other one is the new Sennheiser HD560s. So this headphone pretty much just released. It's been out for a little while, but it's been kind of hard to get your hands on. They had like a limited stock. I think it's pretty much widely available now at about $200 US. And man, it's good. It's a really good headphone. So let's kind of dig into some of the finer points of each of these devices, and more importantly, them together, to talk about why I think they're such a great deal and such a great sound. So let's start with looking at the build of the 560S. So the build of the 560S is nothing to write home about. It is, if you want to think about this headphone, especially when I'm coming from like Focal stuff, this is a very like plastic, very utilitarian headphone. That doesn't mean to that like I don't mean to say that it's poorly built or anything like that, but it's a very plasticky, kind of creaky, build. It's not a premium device. And you can tell that from the get-go. So on the build front, I mean, it's fine. It's what you'd expect for $200, and I have really no qualms about the build at all. The comfort is kind of the same way. It's not blow your mind comfortable, but it's also not bad. It is an extremely lightweight headphone compared to the other headphones that I've been using. I think it's under 300 grams, whereas the Focal's closer to like 450. So very lightweight. It feels good on my head. I do wish the pads were just like a little bit thicker. They're pretty thin. I'm sure there's going to be some options for replacing them in the future. I don't know what's out there right now. I will tell you that you cannot throw just like a set of like brainwaves pads on these. That's not going to work for you. There's a little plastic ring inside of the headphones that kind of prevents you from doing that. There may be an adapter plate or something available, or maybe you can kind of homebrew one. But as of right now, I'm not sure that there's any just like buy pads, stick them on replacements. But a little bit deeper, a little bit thicker pads, I think would be a welcome adjustment from my point of view. The other thing to note about the build of this, and this is really my one huge gripe with these headphones, is the cable. And it is just this extremely long, spindly thing. I just don't understand why this is the only cable that these came with. I can see including a long cable like this that terminates in 1/4 inch, but having this be the only cable when these are not terribly difficult headphones to drive, I think is an odd choice. Why not terminate it in the typical 3.5 millimeter and then use an adapter to 1/4 inch? That would make a lot more sense, in my opinion, and would certainly make using it with the BTR5 a lot better. So I really wish that they would have included maybe a second shorter cable that terminated in 3.5 or even 2.5 balanced. But this is what we got to work with. So when I'm using this with the BTR5, it's like I've got like a 10-foot cable, and I've got this giant bulky adapter on here, and it's kind of a handful, to be honest with you. I do have what I think to be a replacement cable coming that's 2.5 balanced, which the end that actually goes into the single side of the headphone is also 2.5 balanced. So I think I've got something coming that's going to work for that. We'll have to see though. So I'm not going to link that or anything at this point in time, but I'll update once I get it if it does in fact work. So if there aren't any of those 2.5 balance cables available right now, which I'm trying to use something from like a 595 or something like that, one of the other Sen models, I'm sure that they will be coming in the very, very near future, because these are going to end up being a very popular headphone, I think. And why that is that they sound really, really good. They are an extremely, extremely accurate headphone. The amount of clarity you're getting for $200 here is very, very impressive. And whereas I've tried like the HD5 Sens and the 6XX, I felt like they were kind of an incomplete sound. I didn't feel like I was getting the full range, the full picture. I felt they were coloring the sound quite a bit. Not the case with the 560S. These are a very neutral, very well extended headphone. They're not going to be as highly resolving as something like a faux cal, but I think for what you're getting here for $200, it is a very, very good value proposition. That being said, they are, I would say, more on the analytical side of the headphone spectrum, which means they are just giving you what was recorded. So if a track was really poorly recorded, it's not going to sound great on these headphones. They are just passing that information along to you. And to me, that's kind of what I'm into. That's what I like. And I think, and that's kind of where the BTR5 comes in, because this little guy is just such a great little DAC amp. But it does kind of smooth things out a little bit. Obviously, you're not going to be getting as much resolution as you would with like a desktop setup like my Modius Asgard 3 stack, but it gets you pretty darn close. And paired with these Sennheisers, man, it is a really, really good sound for less than $300. And so I was lying in bed last night listening to this setup, which is one of the reasons why I just love this BTR5, is I just Bluetooth it to my phone, and then I don't have to look at my phone anymore. So if I'm listening before bed or whatever, I don't have to be staring at a screen. I just hit a Spotify playlist, and then I just use the controls on the BTR5 to skip songs and change volume levels and things like that. So it makes a setup very portable, which I find myself using a lot as I spend less time at my desk than I used to. So it's a super handy little device, and for less than $100, man, it sounds good. To the point where, like, I feel like if I would have started with just these, I'm not sure if I would have looked for anything else, to be honest with you. So it's kind of got me questioning whether or not I need like my Modius and Asgard 3 and my Elears. Like, is it worth that extra however many hundreds of dollars? I don't know. I don't know if it would be for most people. And I think if you're just getting into the hobby, if you want a very versatile way to start off, the BTR5 and the 560S, if you want a taste of like audiophilia, that is going to be a great option for you to start and not break the bank. What I will say is, if you get a more capable headphone like the Elear, which is obviously a more capable headphone, you're going to be getting better dynamics. You're going to be getting a little bit better instrument separation. But I mean, overall, the imaging and stuff in the presentation of the 560S, like, I don't think you could ask for more than for $200. And on a lower amp DAC like the BTR5, I think the differences are honestly quite negligible between the two, because the Elears are very limited by what this little guy can do. Whereas I feel like this pushes the Sennheisers to a really capable level. When you switch over to something like the Modius Asgard 3, or if you had like a higher end desktop DAC amp setup, I think that's where you're really going to start noticing some improvements with your headphones. So in that instance, the Elear really outperforms the 560S, and quite noticeably so. But like I said, that difference is not as easy to tell when I'm listening to either headphone on the BTR5. So if you wanted to, if you wanted a desktop setup and you were just going to use it with the 560S, I don't think you need to spend a ton of money on an amp DAC. Like I said, for mobile use, the BTR5, but if you're at your desk and you're starting with the 560S, pick your $200 stack, right? The shit stack would probably be my preference. The Modi and the Magni 3 Plus, I think, would be a great match for the 560S. Topings, E30, L30 would be another great choice. And then, Atom, the Atom amp DAC combo would also be good, and probably the Liquid Spark combo as well. So any of those stacks I think are going to do wonderfully for this. Or if you want an all-in-one unit, the Fiio K5 Pro would be an option that I would look at too, or the Shitful. I think any of those are going to do just fine with the 560S, and I think you're going to be getting a lot out of them for that price range. And you can always upgrade down the road if you want to. But that would be, like I said, if you're getting into the hobby and you've got $300-400 to spend, 560S, either a BTR5 for portable use or a $200 stack for your desktop, and I think you are going to be honestly 80% of the way there to anything else you'd want. So I think start there and see if you're satisfied. That's what I would do. And right now I'm going to do some more listening and some more thinking as to whether or not I need all that other gear when this is just such a good setup and so affordable. I can feel good about using these. I don't have to baby them like I do my other gear, my Elears and stuff. Like I feel like I have to be really careful with them and treasure them. Whereas these just feel like you can throw them in your bag, you can throw them on your head, you can toss them on your bed. You're not as worried about it. Whereas like the Elears, you're like, they're just so nice that you almost don't want to use them as much. So in that regard, I really like having gear that's not as expensive, because then I just don't feel so cautious about using it. Like I just toss it on and listen, which is what it's all about, right? So 560S, BTR5, both awesome devices. Fully recommend both of them, and a great place to start if you're just looking to get into the hobby. So I hope that was helpful, and yeah, feel free to drop any questions in the comments and links below. Other than that, keep listening, and I will catch you next time. Thanks.